They simply didn't believe. They just didn't believe. I can go off into all other types of intros and what have you. They just didn't believe. In Numbers 14, the whole purpose of leaving Egypt was to go into the land of Canaan, and here's their opportunity, and they didn't believe it. Not only didn't the sons believe it, but they came back, the princes, they came back and spoke that death into the congregation, the common man. So at this stage, they go to, in Numbers chapter 14, the congregation doesn't believe. The people are done, just the people. So the whole group, the people, and the sons, the princes, are all murmuring against Moses. And he's the one that got them to this point by listening to God, who gave him the authority to do this thing, gave him the vision to pull this off. How many of us are being shown something that we can do, but because we run across the opposition, we start murmuring and complaining against the Moses, the person who's meant to take us into the promised land. And then we wonder why we can't get in. We've unified behind the naysayers. We've decided to take on the position that is popular instead of the position that was promised. With the expectation of making other plans to go back to Egypt, or just sit there and murmur and complain and still move forward. Well, then we put ourselves in a position where we have to relearn, which is what they're about to do. And a whole generation is going to die off. There was a smaller sample of this when Moses went up to the mountain and came back and was frustrated, and there were people that died off who worshiped the calf. They started with 3 million. I don't know what the numbers are today, but they're about to lose another group of people. All because they didn't believe what they started. And the minute opposition came, they decided to take a side, and that side was that of the complainer. I can't imagine how Moses felt. Or maybe I can. When we get into something and we're working towards creating something, we forget that it feels one way when you're starting, but it feels a completely different way when you're in the midst of it and looking to conquer the battle. And we forget that you can only go so far as your, I want to say commitment, but it's not your commitment. It's your agreement with your partners. You can be as committed as you want to be, but if your partners go against you, then, you could want to get there all you want and say, hey, we can do this. And if they're saying, no, I don't think we can, because the people are too great. The challenge is too much. Your plan is not going to work. Let's do it a different way. Even though they're not the Moses. I want to remind you, grandchildren, brothers and sisters in Kenya, and those who this is a blessing to, God bless you all. If you're listening to this, I want to remind you of what the promise was. Because oftentimes when we're looking to accomplish anything, we forget the promise. On my chalkboard over there, I have believe in what I saw when I started to remind me, or one of my boards here, because I have, as you can see, I have boards. There's one right there as well. To remind me of what I started, or to believe in what I started. And it could be that at this point you, your team, have forgotten what you believed in when you started. This was the promise to Moses in Exodus chapter 33. And God spoke to him. And it says in 33 verse 1, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Depart, go up hence, thou and the people which thou hast brought up out of the land of Egypt, unto the land which I swear unto Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." That's the rich history of it all. "Saying, Unto thy seed will I give it." Jacob he gave the promise to the man before he became Israel. That's why sometimes I show you Jacob and I show you Israel, or I talk about Jacob and I talk about Israel. He gave the promise to the man. Anyway, verse 2, "And I will send an angel before thee, and I will drive out the Canaanite, the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, the Jebusite, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. For I will not go up in the midst of thee, for thou a stiff-necked people, lest I consume thee in the way." In the previous video, I talked about how God goes before them. I believe this confirms that. In the previous video, I talked about the principles that God was exercising on behalf of the team that decides that they want to accomplish anything. There has to be a visionary. Moses is the visionary. Aaron and Miriam are part of this process. It's a sad day when the visionary gives up and doesn't want to deal with the challenges of accomplishing the goal, because there is no other direction. There is no plan B. But when the visionary says, you know what, I want to do this, but I don't want to do this. In other words, I quit, but I can't do anything else. Do not think this is strange. It happens all the time. At least I have seen it happen with visionaries often. When it comes down to make decisions, decisive decisions, they decide, no, I'm not going to go. Even though God has already made a way, but they can't see the way. All they see is the circumstance. The minute opposition comes and someone says no, they think it doesn't work. They don't understand that all the people following them then loses. In this particular case, the leadership were the princes. That Moses was leading. In Numbers chapter 14, verse 1, it says, "And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron, and against Aaron. And the whole congregation said unto them, Would God that we have died in the land of Egypt. Or with God, we had died in the wilderness. The wilderness is a particular place. I happen to be in somewhat of a wilderness myself right now, April 1st, I think it is, of 2024. March 31st of 2024. The wilderness is a particular place that I really want to focus in on for the rest of this video. As I read to you Numbers chapter 14, and we'll move out of 14 here pretty soon, but I think I accomplished what I want to accomplish from Numbers 10 to 14, which is to show you the challenges that you're going to face in accomplishing anything. The reason why you have to be very careful about the people you do put around you, but understanding, even being careful about the people you put around you, there's still going to be a bunch of Judases. People who don't believe. People who have their own personal reasons for being there. Not necessarily to accomplish the goal, they just want to maybe get away from their circumstances. You're going to have to deal with a lot of personality, my grandchildren, my brothers and sisters in Kenya. The congregation will lift up their voice against you if you're looking to accomplish anything great. The children of Israel will murmur and complain. What you see as a simple going into the promise that was given to you back in the day and that you believed in and still believe in is going to be short-circuited sometimes by those who you need, because you need a team. But if they don't believe it, they may even act like they believe it. If they don't believe it, then you're not going to go into the promised land. You're going to have to go through more and more lessons. There will be people who will sabotage your success, and they will be doing it on purpose because of their own personal fears. This is what happened in Numbers chapter 13 with the 10 tribes. Their own personal fears. They're not thinking about you. They're just thinking about they don't want to die trying to conquer the prize. But in the meantime, they're affecting you. Not that they don't care about you. They're just thinking about themselves and not the congregation. This happens, and it happens all the time. The part I want to talk to you about is that this is the wilderness experience. The wilderness experience is often an experience on your way to something, trying to find the right team of people to accomplish that something that you're interested in. Whether it's a business, whether it's getting into school, whether it's getting a job, which I prefer you start your own business, which is even more challenging. But in getting a job, you may need to get the job to gain the experience, to get around the people who are experts. You may need to become an apprentice. You have to be careful who you learn from in your wilderness experience. Because if you don't make the right relationships and you surround yourself with a bunch of quitters and people who don't want to make decisions, tough decisions, to move forward, then you will stay in a wilderness for a long time. I speak to you from personal experience. I believe we can do all things through Christ, through the Messiah, through the anointing. But if you're following the lead of someone who does not believe that, or if you are the lead and you do not believe that, and it is a God vision. And let me just say this. That word for children is a word for children, whether they're righteous children or unrighteous children. Which means that you can have a righteous plan or an unrighteous plan. The separate component of it is to have agreement. Without the agreement, you can't accomplish anything. The power of the agreement is the key to any type of success. That's the reason why Jesus went in with miracles, to show them what the possibilities were. Whether it was the healings, the success in business, the tax payments, whether it was meeting the people's social needs through feeding them with food, the educational revelations that were shared. All of these justified his ability to create something that was much better than what the experience that they were already living, which is the reason why they wanted to learn, which is the reason why they wanted to congregate one with another and create this reality that Jesus has showed them was possible. And in that, it was an inverse effect in that he didn't have very many people who did not believe in his core group. And I'm moving a little bit further ahead than I probably should, but we'll get there because we're going from Genesis to Revelation. We'll stop over in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John as well. But just to tease you with just a little bit of it, in that the inverse was that he didn't have 10 tribes that fought against him, or 10 or 10 disciples that fought against him, 10 children that fought against him, 10 sons, 10 princes that fought against him. He only had one. He had Judas. The people that did walk away didn't want to eat his flesh, didn't want to drink his blood, because it sounded crazy to them or it didn't seem right. In other words, they didn't want to swear an allegiance to following him. But his core group stuck with him, which is the reason why even Judas had the opportunity to accomplish his part of fulfilling the promises that were of the Old Testament. Which is the reason why Jesus was able to accomplish everything he was supposed to accomplish in his 33 1/3 years. If you're not willing to go through the challenges, make the hard decisions, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone. It affects you. Maybe you're Moses. Maybe you're the Aaron. Spirit of Moses. Maybe you're the spirit of Aaron. Yeah, that's the reason why you got to be careful the people that you choose to be around you, the people that you're willing to sacrifice for. The wilderness experience is challenging. CashApp $Mr. Paul Dozier. CashApp $Mr. Paul Dozier. We are on a journey from Genesis to Revelation. Thank you for joining us on the journey. If this is helpful to you, please like, share it with other people. It would go a long way. If you can give something, CashApp $Mr. Paul Dozier, that would be great. God bless you. And thank you for joining us on the journey.